So we're very lucky to have James Smith here, EVP of America from Criteo. And he's going to be talking about strategies to master multi-screen, driving relevance and results. So a quick intro on James. James is the EVP of America at Criteo, the leading performance marketing technology company. James is responsible for managing all sales and operations throughout North and South America. Previous to Criteo, James spent 8 years as CRO of several very successful startups, including Verve Mobile, Flickster, and the Huffington Post. So, James, come on up.
Hi, everybody. James Smith from Criteo. It's good to be here. It's good to see all of you. You all look. You don't look so good, actually. Some of you look great, but you all look better in the Southern California space here. I'm a New Yorker, so just being here, I feel like there's sort of a glow. Although I just, on my way in here, somebody told me that they refer to Palm Springs and Palm Desert as God's waiting room. I mean, I'm a New Yorker. I thought we were mean. Californians, like, man, right at it, you know, because there's lots of old people here. Anyway. I don't actually have any material. What do you guys want to talk about? I do. I've got some really good stuff, actually. So I'm here to share some insights, data regarding an area that is, of course, a great challenge to all of us, marketers, e-tailers, vendors, whatever place you're in. Hopefully this will be very valuable to you. It's trends, data, and recommendations all in the context of e-commerce in this new, complex, multi-device, cross-device world. And so specifically, we at Criteo have examined literally over 3 billion e-commerce transactions over the course of the last 24 months. And I'm here today with our latest analysis, which is going to highlight some of the most important trends we're seeing, consumer behavior in this cross-device world. And more importantly, I'm going to be able to quantify those trends for you so that you can have an idea. I can provide you with benchmarks on how you're performing against those averages, whether you're below average or above average. And because most of us want to be above average, with the exception of the current crop of presidential candidates, the rest of us all want to be above average, and possibly my children. The rest of us all want to be above average, and therefore, even better than that, I'm going to quantify these trends, and then I'm going to give you highlight some recommendations based on the tactics that we see the clients who are performing best, selling more, and taking greatest advantage of this cross-device world. So I'll be able to touch on those, and then you should go to the Criteo booth afterwards if you have more questions and you want to get more in depth in the types of tactics that we're seeing e-commerce, e-tailers take advantage of so that they're above that trend. But first, I've got some even fresher data, hot off the presses, hot out of the oven, that we did. We actually did a poll in the last 24 hours here at eTail West. We did it with the eTail group and CNN. I'm lying about the CNN part. Here's what you told us. 55% in a cross-device world that exists today, still 55% of e-tailers today are not able to follow their customers across multiple devices. So that's kind of shocking. 68% are not able to serve personalized messages across devices. That's a challenge. That's a problem, right? If you can't do that. And we're going to get into all this. And 51%, in fact, interestingly, drive more revenue on mobile via apps. What's very interesting about all those that was a sample of probably, a few hundred people, is that it's very consistent with what we saw sampling literally billions of dollars of e-commerce, billions of transactions, and I'll get into that in a second. We also asked a couple other random questions, just so you know. Apparently, all of you are privacy advocates, so that's good. I just heard, can I tell an inappropriate Steve Jobs joke? Who saw the Steve Jobs movie? I saw it on the plane on the way out here. It's always good to talk about Apple. So at the end of the movie, the Steve Jobs movie, he dies. Spoiler. And you know, they bury him. But what they don't show is that since they bury him, every year, annually, they unbury Steve Jobs, and then they rebury him in a coffin that's just a little bit better than the coffin from the year before. Okay. Just off the charts with inappropriateness here. By the way, so if the presidential election was held here at eTail West, Hillary Clinton would win. Who knew? That's interesting. Sort of comforting for me, but that's me. And you're all sick of tired of hearing about mobile. Tough shit. You're going to hear more. So here we go. So who the hell am I to tell you about trends? Well, I work for a company that sees more e-commerce transactions than any other company, arguably in the world, across more publishers, more countries, more consumers, and there's the numbers up there. This is what this data is based on. So it's real trends, it's real data. This is not fuzzy or squishy. This is what's happening in the world of e-commerce. So pay attention. So where do we start? Well, I know you don't want to hear more about mobile, but the reality is, in a cross-device world, mobile is, as we know at this point, the sun at which all other devices are revolving around, to put it simply. At this point, not only do you probably know that, but these numbers are probably staggering to you. Literally, the US is actually a laggard in this space. So globally, in fact, e-commerce transactions are increasing at an incredibly rapid pace across the world, with Japan and the UK and South Korea leading the way. North Korea, not so much. And no surprise there. So, and what does this mean in terms of dollars, right? So it's trending, that's great. But what does it mean in terms of dollars? What's the pie we're talking about here that you folks should be paying attention to? And I know this is all about cross-device, but what I'm saying is mobile is the sun around which cross-device revolves. I just made that up. I think it's pretty good. So here's the dollar amounts. We're talking about, Criteo predicts at the end of this year, and this is just for the US, that we're talking about $200 billion. Almost half of all e-commerce sales will be happening on a mobile device. Half. So you got to pay attention. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about, the first trend you need to understand, is a little deeper in terms of that mobile, and you need to focus on a mobile experience if you want to understand how to best optimize and target consumers in a cross-device world. So put mobile at the center. The cross-device purchasing behavior, not just the sales we saw, but the way the consumers are using the mobile device, even when they don't make the sale there. Those two things are putting mobile at the center of the universe here. Just some more numbers there. As you can see, US still a laggard on that front. But still, even as a laggard, 4 in 10 e-commerce transactions are being done via multiple devices. They might end on the desktop, they might end on a tablet, they might end on a smartphone, but 4 out of 10, are there, and a third are happening in mobile. Another thing that should be an eye-opener in terms of if you're not quite there in terms of understanding the size of e-commerce in the mobile space. This past Black Friday, here's what we saw. We saw transactions of over 40% on mobile phones on Black Friday. On Friday was basically Mobile Friday. Even Cyber Monday, which is supposed to be the day for digital selling, we saw 18% more on Black Friday than we did on that Cyber Monday. So people are using their phones and using them more. Mobile needs to be a big part of your property. I said I'm going to top line some recommendations on what you can do now. You've seen the averages. You want to be above average, like we all do, right? And the things that we see, our clients were above average in terms of they're seeing higher than 35%. They saw higher than 41% on Black Friday. They're seeing more than half of their sales. Is they're implementing these types of tactics. And like I said, I'm not going to go into detail on them, but you can go to the Criteo booth and there's people there who can spend a lot of time with you going through those details so that you have a better understanding of how to optimize the mobile experience. What's the second area that we need to focus in on? Let's dive down a little bit. Within the mobile space, there's a lot of skeptics about the world of apps. And there shouldn't be skeptical. Even if you believe your audience is small for apps, it's worth optimizing that area and investing in that area as it continues to trend up. Why? Because apps convert way better than desktop and way better than mobile web. In fact, 54% of mobile transactions that people saw in mobile happened in an apps. Why is that? Well, because the conversion funnel for apps is far, far larger than for mobile browser and even for desktop. People look at more products, they add more to the basket, they purchase more, and additionally, they spend more per sale. So it's a very, very, very important place for you to be focused. So far we've seen that in the mobile space, you need to optimize around that. Within that, We need to understand that apps is still and will continue to be a very significant part of that. Don't ignore apps for mobile web. There's a lot of our clients who do that. And we see them performing below the trend. We see those who are focused and optimizing their apps for commerce, not just for pushing them someplace else, are seeing tremendous results. The last trend that I'm going to identify is the one that is the topic of this, which is identifying individuals and understanding their intent by using matching, exact matching technology. So there's a lot of discussion about figuring out how do you identify that one consumer who's using 5 devices? How do you not target devices and target consumers? And we know we all want to be able to do that. Why? Because talking to a consumer is more engaging. It allows you to provide stronger, more personalized recommendations. At the same time, understanding what device they're on allows you to understand the context for what they buy on what devices. And interestingly, as you saw early on, in this room or in this conference, still the majority of people don't have the ability to do that. So we just introduced last week, and I'm not going to go into an advertisement here. I don't even think I have the term on these slides, something that we call universal match, where at this point we've actually used CRM data, first-party shopping data, so real shopping data, CRM data that's first-party, in an open platform to basically, at this point, we've already identified 500 million individuals deterministically, positively, across devices. And those clients who use that technology immediately see, at minimum, a 10% lift right away by being able to personalize those messages, and also by not having to waste time sending ads to people who've already seen those very same ads and have not engaged with them. So very, very important area. Another one where you can spend more time at the Criteo booth speaking to us about it. And this is what consumers say. They want it. They want it. This is not just to drive sales. It's to drive consumer experience. Consumers want this, and this is very consistent with the polls that we saw here at eTail. And they demand this consistent brand story across the various devices and a personalized message that recognizes they're the same person across devices, but also recognizes they're on a different device. So that's very, very important that you connect with the people, not just with the devices, and that you implement the right technology to do that. There's a lot of solutions out there. We're finding that the best solid way to do it is a combination of real-time shopping data, so you can respond in real time, and using CRM data, emails, across the board. That is where how we've been building it, and that's where we're seeing the lift. So if you're thinking about a different type of solution, you might want to check in with us or another vendor that provides this kind of technology and make sure that you're doing it the right way in a deterministic way, because that's available today, and it's where we see the lift. So in summary, what we're saying is it's a mobile world, and you should focus on that. Put it in the center of your strategy. Secondly, focus on apps within that mobile world. Even if you don't believe you're seeing a lot of traffic there or a lot of transactions, it's a great conversion place, and optimizing there we see is disproportionately high versus the investment that's put in. Again, those who we see do that across all of our thousands and thousands of e-commerce partners, those who focus and optimize their apps, we see way above the average trend, way above even 54%, which is the average on mobile in terms of sales. And make sure that you're working today to find a solutions provider to allow you to truly, in a deterministic way, use CRM and email data to be able to understand who your consumers are and build deep, rich user profiles based on e-commerce and based on devices with the right solution, whether it be Criteo, which it should be, of course, or some other vendor, but make sure it's a deterministic solution based on those factors is what we see. So we believe you should know all those things, and you need to be on top of those trends, because I just pulled this out yesterday, saw this, somebody said this last week. Was it John Costello who was? It was. Was it John Costello? So John Costello, so CMO of Dunkin' Brands, who's actually also an advisor to Criteo, coincidentally. I mean, if you think things are moving fast now, and this guy knows what he's talking about, take a look at this quote. So you want to pay attention to the 3 themes that I just talked to you about, because you want to be above average, right? And if you don't want to be above average, run for president. You have a good shot. Okay? Thank you very much.